Hello, my name is Roxana Mehran from USA, New York City. We are live from the ESC studio, ESC Congress 2021, the digital experience. And I'm here today with our fantastic journal editors, two of the best journals in cardiology, Filippo Crea, the editor-in-chief of the European Heart Journal, the official journal of the ESC, and Stuart Spencer, the senior executive editor from The Lancet. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for this open conversation and our interlude. I wanted to ask a little bit about what makes science worthy of publication in your journals. So let's start first with you, Filippo.
Roxana, two simple remarks. First, the methodology is to be state-of-the-art. The methodology is to be strong. And second, the clinical relevance of what is proposed in the article. I always tell my fellows, ask yourselves important questions. It's much more difficult to identify important questions rather than finding solutions. If the question is clinically relevant, then the methods to address that question can be found. But the question is to be clinically relevant. Ask yourself important questions.
Those are really, really great, great suggestions and good advice. Stuart?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with Filippo that it has to be sound methodology and clinically relevant, but I'm also looking for novelty.
Yeah.
So,
you guys are tough about that novelty
Absolutely.
stuff.
I mean, if we're only going for three things, there's three
Yeah.
of them, and they're all difficult to do.
So is it important for the authors to say, what's novel about this? What's different? You want to see that. You want to...
I want to see what's novel. I want to see what the clinical implications are.
Should that be in
Not
the cover
necessarily-
letter, or should that be in the manuscript itself?
It should be both, but I want to see it in the covering letter because I need to know when I first look at this paper, I want to see, is this one that is one for the Lancet or not? And if it doesn't have clear clinical relevance, it probably isn't.
So congresses like the ESC are really the place where we are all looking for the science, the late-breaking clinical trials. And then there's that fast track where people are saying, oh, let's do this because we want it in time for simultaneous publication. Is the review process different? Because there's this sort of feeling that the review process is a little bit more lenient. Is that true?
No,
Absolutely not.
All right, so
Absolutely
tell us a
not.
little bit about that. Let's start with you, Filippo.
Well, of course, the pressure is on reviewers, because for a fast track, we ask our reviewers to give a feedback within 7 days. So we try to identify those reviewers we know better, and we know that they can deliver the good within 7 days. So it's a bit of pressure on our reviewers, more than on other things. But others are eager to have these simultaneous publications, which makes sense, and we try to help them in this direction.
And you?
Yep, exactly the same. The review process is just as rigorous, but we do ask people to review them very quickly. And actually, it's not out of the way because most of us, when we're reviewing papers, the average time to review a paper is probably 3.5 hours. You should be able to fit that in the next 3 or 4 days, really.
I know, you're pretty tough on making sure that we respond to that we review very, very quickly. But I think the other thing is that you didn't mention is that you probably send it out to more reviewers, right? Usually you'll have 3, maybe in a fast track you'll go to 4 or 5 reviewers. I've seen that happen. Is that another thing that makes you feel better about your paper?
It's not so much that we want to have 4 or 5 reviewers, it's that to speed up the process, we ask more people. And if it's a trial that people are expecting, they all want to review it, I hope. And,
That's
and
right.
then they all pick it up very, very quickly. And I don't then turn around and say, oh, well, don't bother.
Yeah, no,
they want to read.
That's important. And it's important to let everyone know that the review process is just as rigorous. And I think that's very, very important.
It's faster, but rigorous.
Faster, but very rigorous. So let's go to the tough one, the preprints and this data sharing business. So let's talk a little bit about that. What do you all feel? I mean, at the time of COVID, it was really important to see these things quickly. We saw the preprints just pick up tremendously. Is that a good thing or a bad thing in terms of what you as the journals feel? Let's start with you, Stuart.
Okay, I think overall, I think it's a bad thing. I mean, we all like to see open science. We want things out as quickly as possible, and we strive to do that. We try not to delay publication. But whether it's really necessary, except in situations like the COVID, I don't think we actually need to get things out very much more quickly than we do.
What do you think? Yeah, what do you think? Do you feel the same?
Yeah, it's like the rain. It is there. We cannot avoid it. It's part of the game. It is understandable that the authors are anxious to publish as soon as possible because they're afraid that other groups can produce in the meantime similar results. Of course, we need rules. And with our publishing, we are discussing the best way to accommodate this need for preprints. It's the rain. We cannot avoid it.
I mean, I think it's true, right? I think that in this day and age, with such a rapid proliferation of data and the competitive nature of this, in order to really protect some of the scientists that have worked years and years on their research, and they don't want to fall behind. Maybe the review process takes longer, et cetera, and others will come in front, and then the novelty is gone. That's happened to me as an author. And of course, data sharing is incredibly important for us in the scientific field. So,
well, yeah, I think it's something very, very important because data sharing increases the confidence in science, the confidence of the readers in science, because it enables independent data assessment and also promotes science. For instance, patient-level meta-analysis can become easier with data sharing. Of course, again, like preprinting, we need rules. We have to protect the authors sharing data. We need tools for archiving. We need transparency in allowing access to the data published by the others. So it's a complex problem, but personally, I'm very much in favor. You know, the problem is that we have to share this initiative, Stuart, with among the main journals. Because if I go for data sharing, then some others can prefer other journals because it's extra work or extra responsibilities. So I think that will be difficult for a single journal to go for data sharing. But if major journals, Lancet, New England, JAMA, and others, and ourselves, if we really combine our efforts, this is something which for our readers and for science in general would be very, very important, in my humble opinion.
Well, I agree with you. I think that data sharing is a great thing, but I don't think we can mandate it. I don't think that just because a paper has been published that the data is then immediately shared, because we're seeing the phase one of it, if you like, the primary endpoint at 1 year, but they've got a secondary endpoint at 3 years. They need to protect their data until the trial is completed. So
we need rules.
Yep, we need rules, exactly.
But we have to discuss these rules together. It's something that cannot be done by one single journal. Must be a joint effort among main journals. I think it would be worth going for it.
But I also think, I hope you'll bring some of the trialists and the investigators also in there and to help you with some of the rules and what matters, because it's an important one before you go ahead. We only have a couple of minutes left, and I want to touch on some of the tough topics. And the bigger one is, how do we ensure diversity in our reviewers, in our authorship, to be sure that we no longer see just male authors, that we see female representation and underrepresented minorities? What measures have you done in your journals to be sure? I know the Lancet has done a lot of things, and I know that the European Heart Journal, just based on ESC, is doing a lot of work. What are you doing to change the Jurassic old ways and come back to the new life of diversity and inclusion? So let's talk about that. Let's start with you, Filippo.
We believe in science, in numbers. I give you numbers. In the previous editorial board, there were 5 women. Now there are 25.
Good.
And this is just a starting point.
Excellent.
Well, yes, on our editorial board as well. I mean, there are 4 males and everyone else is female. I mean, it's just it's great. But how do we can't do anything much about authorship. I mean, we're not going to prescribe who can be an author. That's beyond us. But we can look to see how we can increase the number of women who do reviews for us. We try and balance the number of women who are writing for us, commissioned articles. But we struggle because I'm finding all the time that, and I understand why, the women more reluctant, it seems, to pick up the review options.
No, I know, and that's something we have to work on. Implicit bias training for your reviewers and
Yes.
your editorial board. I'm hoping that you're implementing that, and I think it's going to be an incredible way forward. ESC is a great place to showcase our science. Thank you for your work as editors-in-chief and senior executive editor of The Lancet. It's so wonderful to have this conversation with you. I look forward to more of an open conversation like this one. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next year.
That's right. And thank you all for joining us. We're live from the ESC studio. Please keep watching.